One, a Star Wars story, takes place immediately before A New Hope, and it is arguably the best prequel, albeit it is not an episode. But it might as well be. It's all about this group of rogue rebellion people that are out to steal the plans for the Death Star so that they can eventually make A New Hope. It's actually the plot that is mentioned in the first ever opening scroll of Star Wars. Even though you do know the story, it doesn't feel like you do. It feels original, it feels fresh, so let's get into it. Okay, first off, we're looking at the people category, which starts off with the acting. All of the acting seemed really good, especially from actors I don't typically see as great actors. People like Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, and Mads Mikkelsen, they all have a decent ability to act. But I feel like everything I've seen from them in other projects, it just wasn't done right. Maybe it was the writing, maybe it was just what happens sometimes, but this is probably the best I've seen from them in anything. Right here. Given that full points, the characters, pretty much any Star Wars movies has a set of memorable characters. I don't think anybody's going to be walking out not remembering who these people are, who these characters are, because they are actually memorable characters. So that gets full points. The cast, I can't really imagine anybody else playing these roles but these people. I like the cast, full points there. The importance of the characters is pretty clear, especially pretty much any sci-fi movie will have this, but everybody has their own role to play. Everybody has importance, what can I say? Full points there. As for chemistry, I can't deny that chemistry was a big portion of this movie, not only with the father and the daughter angle, but also pretty much with all the intermediate team. Chemistry gets full points as well. So people gets a full 10 out of 10. Writing score. When it comes down to the dialogue, it joins the rest of the Star Wars movies, or at least most of the Star Wars movies, with having memorable dialogue, memorable lines, memorable quotes, memorable ways that people are talking in general. All around, full points there. Balance. The balance of the film is probably the only thing I really need to point out to you guys, is the fact that there is a lot of things going on. When I think of an over-convoluted movie, I think of two things. Too many places and too many characters. If it's got both of those elements, you're going to get a 0 from me on this one, but if it has one of those elements, you're only going to get half points. In Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, it has so many settings, so many different planets, so many things that are going on, and that's the locations angle. I don't think there's too many characters. I think you're going to have a good time with the characters. You're going to think the characters are all memorable. So this really comes down to the too many locations, so that gets half points. Story depth. This is a very relevant, very important story to the Star Wars saga in whole. It was a very smart movie when it comes down to the story. That also gets full points. Originality. I said it before in my original review of Rogue One, and I'll say it again. This is one of the most freshest Star Wars movies ever. This is one of the freshest feeling Star Wars movies to date, and that gets full points. Interesting, absolutely, it is a Star Wars movie, and the fact that they took quite an interesting look at how those rebel spies did what they did in order for episode 4 to exist is definitely an interesting concept, and I like it a lot. Full points there. The writing category gets 9 out of 10. BTS. Visuals. Star Wars has always been really good with visuals, even the older ones that use practical effects versus CGI. And this is no exception. This is a very beautiful movie because even when it's not using CGI, they're using expansive shots of the settings and the landscapes, and using the lighting against those backdrops really looks immaculate. So that gets full points. When it comes down to the directing, I fought with myself a little bit here because it does have that balance issue, but at the same time, the director did a good job of telling a story and getting from point A to point B and really tying that together with the fourth episode. I kind of have to give that full points. Editing, pretty much every Star Wars movie is going to have really good editing because there's a lot of action going on, and in order for the audience to really understand what's going on in big action sequences, they kind of need some really good editing during those things, and editing gets full points. Advertisements, I do consider this as advertised. I never noticed anything that wasn't, so advertising gets full points there. Music and sound, definitely. They knew how to make this movie feel and sound like a Star Wars movie. It sounds amazing. Full points there. BTS gets 10 out of 10. Narrative arc. So the introduction kind of got you acquainted with Jyn Erso and her father, as well as, in general, what's kind of going on. Even though it's a little confusing at first, you quickly understand that they're building the Death Star, which gets full points. The inciting incident is obviously when Jyn Erso is kind of recruited into this Rebel Spy Alliance thing going on, which is fine, full points there. The obstacles, of course, I already said, there's a ton of different settings, different locations, different planets, and lots of things are going on in each location, and those, of course, would be the obstacles. Not only that, but it is a war that's going on in all these different places, so yeah. Full points there. The climax is a big culmination at the end that, as you start to realize what's about to happen at the end, you're like, oh, you start shaking if you are a fan of Star Wars because it's so exciting. It's so amazing to see how this movie ultimately ends. Full points there. The falling action, of course, is really good. Calming down and returning to a new norm, and that new norm is ultimately Episode 4. So, full points there. Narrative arc gets 10 out of 10 as well. Entertainment score. As a rewatchable movie, I definitely consider this rewatchable. This is a rewatch, and I was happy to do so. Full points there. Fun experience while watching? Absolutely. There's so much happening on screen, and it's so fun to watch the movie go from point A to point B and escalate to that point. Fun experience. Full points there. Impulse to buy it or own it? What do you think? Full points there. Impulse to talk about it other than this review? Absolutely. There's so many things in this movie that I had to talk about when I first saw it, where it's like, oh my goodness, have you seen this movie? If you haven't, and if you aren't interested because some Star Wars movies have let you down, you have to see this movie. It is exciting, and it's respectful to the original trilogy. Full points there. Does the movie suck the audience in? I gotta say it does. There's just way too much happening on screen. Full points there. Entertainment score gets 10 out of 10 as well. Specialty category. Alright, before I saw the movie, I had to write down 5 things I wanted to know about it before watching. Of course, I've already seen it before, but regardless. The first one being, this is a Star Wars movie. Does it feel like a Star Wars movie in general? This one feels like the original trilogy. 10 out of 10 for that. Usually Star Wars movies are all about action as there is a war going on. So how does the action feel in this one? Really great. Full points, 10 out of 10. As an adventure movie, I can't really say that it's not. Like I said, lots of different locations, lots of different planets that these main characters are going around. If that's not an adventure, I don't know what is. 10 out of 10. For this fourth specialty question, I couldn't pick what I wanted to say. Either it was going to be, how is this as a prequel, or how is this as a Felicity Jones movie? It was one of the two. And then I realized it really doesn't matter what I say because both would be full points. As a prequel, it is incredibly important and makes sense on a level that makes more sense than any of the actual prequels. And because of that, I gotta give that full points. And as a Felicity Jones movie, like I said, I've seen her in a lot of different projects, but she's never struck me as a great actress in general. But now when I think of her, the first movie that pops up is probably Rogue One. And because of that, I'd give her full points. So regardless, the fourth special question is getting full points, 10 out of 10. Halfway decent. I truly believe that the filmmakers made the movie that they intended to make. Full points, 10 out of 10. If we add up all those points, we get 99 out of 100 possible stars. 99%. Nearly perfect. Nearly. The first score I gave it was in the 90s, but it was not that high. Guys, tell me what you thought of Rogue One in the comments down below. You can follow me on Twitter and Tracks.tv at the username IAMDWG. And as always, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, which of course will be tomorrow. But remember, I will always be reviewing Star Wars movies on Mondays until I'm done rewatching Star Wars. And then the Mondays after that, I don't know yet. We'll find out. Check back again with me on tomorrow and see that movie review. And then, who knows? Peace out, guys, and have a good day.